Chairman of the Apex Body. And then we have Dr. Moses Carpenter, Associate Professor, Assam University. A very good morning to all of you. First of all, thank you all so much for taking time for this talk. We are very happy to welcome all of you in our midst, and we are also we also apologize for the delay. We shall start very quickly. First of all, I would like to give time to our Honorable VC for the welcome note.
On behalf of the Northeast Christian University, I welcome you, both of you, and Dr. Moses is also here. Indeed, it's such a wonderful, tremendous, amazing surprise that we could have you here. None of us imagined, and just last moment we found that you're coming here. People were saying, how did you manage to get him here? I said, we have our own sources and we have our own connections, but it's so wonderful that you're here, and we thank you for making time. There's not much time because he has to catch his flight, so we've cut short just a little, and we want to give more time for you. But once again, thank you so much. Read on his CV. I need not tell anything about that. Okay, I just want to claim a little connection or link to fame in a way, personally, because we do have a Leh connection, by the way. Okay, my son-in-law is from Leh. Okay, and his father was also a founding member of the HIL, Mr. Gargan Abile. Okay, you might know him, Abile Gargan. Yeah, and he was also in the advisory board even now of the HIL, the Himalayan Institute of Alternative Learning. Then he was also on the board of SECMOL. You heard of SECMOL that they're talking about. So that's my connection with my wife is here also. So I said, no, I must come and see also our connection today. So, but here we have, you've heard about it, but also Mr. Sharing himself, he's a very eminent person, eminent leader. He was a minister in JK government, and now he's the chairman of the Leh Apex Body. That's the body that's leading the entire movement for the Leh, trying to get a sixth schedule and other benefits and training. But without saying more, Moses is actually from Shillong. I have a connection with him too. He says his place is in Northern Penang on the way to Jawai, which is in the same pin code postal areas where I stay in Shillong. I stay in Madinating, the same area. So that's my connection with him as well. But thank you for bringing him. He is the connecting force that linked us to them. And thank you so much, Moses, for being here. So thank you again for being here. I'll give you time for interaction.
Mr. Sharing and Moses and Mr. Dalilo, thank you so much for this opportunity and welcome to Nagaland. I really didn't expect to be introducing this session, but it's got to be very fast because I know you have very little time. I just want to say how honored and privileged we feel that you sought us out and that you're here in Nagaland today. We are a land of contrasts, as you may have well noticed on your journey from Kohima to Dimapur. You will have seen the wonderful things we are doing in the name of development, the road construction. It's simply mind-blowing, really, what is happening. But I'm here really because there are so many young people here. And Nagaland, like I said, a land of contrast. On one side, we have faith, Christian faith. It's so strong. And yet, at the same time, we wonder where this faith goes when it comes to issues of development, of working with land, nature, our resources, really. And secondly, there is also this, our aspirations are so high, but our priorities, we have challenges with our priorities. But I know you are here on a mission really to understand also the special status that Nagaland enjoys with Article 371A and how the state of Nagaland has been able to use this to protect its own rights, to protect its future, and to determine the course of its development. And I'm not sure, I'm not clear how much of an opportunity you had last evening in Kohima to really understand the implications and how we are utilizing Article 371A. But just to kick off the discussion, I think a lot of university students are here, and I'm sure they would also want to ask you a lot of things as to how the movement in Leh, which has, galvanized and really been a catalyst for imagination of indigenous groups.
Thank you very much, sir, for welcoming us and reconnecting the connects that you mentioned, and it's amazing to learn that we are so far yet very connected, and I can tell you we don't feel we have come so far. I mean, it would be some 3,500 kilometers, but it feels like home. So thank you for making us feel at home here. Yes, we came here to learn more about Northeast and Nagaland and the challenges you face in keeping your culture, your identity, and through that, the environment safe and healthy. We came here for a seminar in Karbi Anglong, in Dimapur, which was about 75 years of 6th schedule, which is another form of constitutional provision to help indigenous people keep their culture, like 371A here. So first of all, I rejoice the fact that Government of India actually kept such provisions like the 6th schedule while the constitution was being framed, and it wanted to not just tolerate but actually strengthen the diversity of India. It was a spirit of the constitution framework, and we need to make the best of it and take it forward to put it to good use. Later, 371, in case of Nagaland, in case of Mizoram, and many other states, was also a provision to help us keep our identity, keep our culture. And when I talk of culture and identity, I connect it directly with environment, because culture is not just about dress and food and music. It's about how we relate to nature, environment, and how we take stewardship of it. Many people ask me when, as an environmentalist, I connected with the movement in Ladakh for safeguards under 6th schedule. They say, what is the relation? 6th schedule is to protect indigenous tribal people, for identity, for customs, culture, and development. Why do you bring environment in? So I always say, and I was telling yesterday also, that to me the best way to keep nature healthy is to entrust it, entrust the stewardship of such fragile ecologies all over Himalayas, and surely here in the Northeast, starting from Hindu Kush, which is very fragile and which affects the rest of the continent, the subcontinent, on both sides, on the Indian side and on the Chinese side. Roughly 2 billion people depend on the waters of the Himalayas, most of which are frozen as glaciers, especially in our part of the world. So the Himalayas host most fresh water after the 2 poles, and therefore it's often called the 3rd pole of the planet. So when you're dealing with such sensitive areas, you really have to be very careful. You have to be careful with the whole planet, but these are hotspots, very sensitive places. And the best way to deal with such places is to entrust the local indigenous people, because they can best take care of it, as they have done for centuries and millennia. And they are the most invested in these landscapes and ecologies, because for generations they'll bear the consequences. So if we leave it to government bureaucrats, they come for 3 years and go away, or 2 years. They won't care about what happens to generations that will come. Or we leave it to corporates. They'll be around for 10, 15 years till they have extracted everything. And then again, people who live there, the indigenous tribal people, will have to bear the consequences. So it is best to engage and trust the indigenous people. This was a thought I carried for engaging with this movement, because apart from cultural identity and maybe development, it gives us powers to manage our own area, whether it is 6th schedule or 371A. And that's the best way, is what I've been sharing all along, why this connects to today's challenges with the environment and climate change. Of course, when our Constituent Assembly was framing these provisions, they, I don't think, thought of climate change back in late 40s, early 50s. But to respond to the challenge of the 21st century, which is not about Cold War or World War, or the biggest war will be with nature and not between nations, more with nature, and we'll be definitely the loser. So to deal with that, I always proposed these safeguards to let people manage their own fragile ecologies through their ancient wisdom and response of people who have to live there. Yet people used to question me, and I was sharing yesterday that recently there was a big development, which you should also know, that actually validates what I was trying to say all along, but not taken seriously by many. Recently, there was a COP conference of people of United Nations. One is happening in Baku, COP29, but 2 weeks ago another finished, COP16, about biodiversity, which I'm sure you must all be very concerned. And one of the main resolutions that they reached in that was that biodiversity can be best taken care by strengthening the indigenous peoples of the regions. Almost exactly what I was trying to convey, but without any connections, just parallelly happening. So therefore, now that it is a global understanding, we all should be able to push it and use it, not just for the government to see it as an environmental and climate change solution also, such safeguards that you get in 371A and we seek in 6th schedule, not just as environmental solutions, but also to live happily in these regions for many millennia to come. And that's how we are looking at it, at this eye, because apart from rights, political rights and development opportunities, we have to respond to this huge challenge of nature that we will be seeing more and more in the coming years. So therefore, it is a responsibility upon all of us. It's not just about government developing or destroying the region or nature around us, but it is also to ourselves. It reminds us of our own responsibility. We are taken as stewards of nature. When they pass this resolution, they are assuming as a given that of course the people of the region will take good care of their own region. But we have to stand up to that, because sometimes when we are not left to ourselves as our ancestors responded to nature and ecology as indigenous tribals, when we are cultured in another culture, for example, in Ladakh, people have always been very respectful of nature, but when they go to these schools that are modeled on London or New York, who again are not what their nations were for centuries or millennia. They are shaped by the Industrial Revolution. An Industrial Revolution is not something God created. It is man-made, man-created, which actually corrupted and polluted a lot of the purity that God created in human beings. So it sent human beings on a rampage of profitability, exploitation and all that. And an offshoot of that is the education system that we get. So when we are dipped into that education system, we perhaps become no different from somebody in Mumbai, Delhi or New York who comes to exploit the Himalayas. So that's the danger. We have to learn from our ancestors who perhaps were nature worshippers also. In fact, I say everybody should become nature worshippers. The new religion of the 21st century should be nature worship, approached by different paths. There should be Hindu nature worshippers, Christian nature worshippers, Buddhist nature worshippers, Muslim nature worshippers, but everybody's religion should be nature worship in this century. Otherwise, we will be actually committing suicide. So, therefore, we have a huge responsibility also to take stewardship. In Ladakh, I've been, after calling for the government to safeguard Ladakh, save Himalayas, we say, save Ladakh, Ladakh bachao, Himalaya bachao. Now, recently I've been saying, Ladakh ko Ladakhiyon se bhi bachana hoga. Yeah, we can be no less dangerous to our own place if we become like that in our minds, then just because of our facial features or names doesn't matter. We could do a lot of damage. So similarly, in the Northeast, we have to stand up to that what is expected, local indigenous people can safeguard this region. They can also do as much damage, but we have to stand up to that expectation. Now, I'm an atheist, or rather agnostic about God, so it is more challenging for me. For somebody who believes in God, has a faith, it is much easier. Like in the prayer, it was mentioned that to keep this beautiful world beautiful, this creation of God, keep its beauty. So then your faith, your God, urges you to keep that beauty. It must be so much easier for people who have a faith. For me, I have to convince myself and motivate myself to see the reasons and therefore do it. For you, it should come naturally that our God wants that. His creation, how can we destroy? If we destroy His creation, we are destroying God. It is blasphemy. I don't know why we don't treat, damaging nature as damaging a church. That's how we have to see. And it is easier for you, therefore, I would say, any believer. But for me, yes, I have to find the reason. Similarly, another thing that destroys nature and nations is our morality and ethics. how strong we are on the side of truth. And when that erodes, nature follows. Then people themselves start selling off their nation, their nature, and so on. Again, it is difficult for an atheist or agnostic person because he or she has to self-motivate, because there is no faith that makes me do so. But for you, it must be so easy, because God is about truth and morality and ethics. So how can these children of God sell off their own well-being and future? So corruption in a God-believing region doesn't go well in my head. And therefore, we have to become a clean community, clean society, because only when we are clean, we see justice elsewhere. No? It's all about justice, fairness. But fairness and justice doesn't come when people are looking for benefits for themselves over others. Others' rights are taken by few people. That's not God's country, I believe. Yeah? So therefore, it's utmost important even to develop in material ways like London or New York. Many of us may not care as much about nature. Maybe we care more about material development. We want to become like London, New York, Singapore. Even there, this ethical morality plays a huge role. I always share with young people. I'll share this with you. You know, most young people would like to be rich or be in a rich country, and that's why they flee and go to different countries in the world. But we must see why the nations with high GDP, high per capita GDP became that. Why the rich became rich. If you look up the world's richest countries per capita GDP and look at the top 10, I'll give you an exercise to do it this evening. You look up top 10 high GDP nations, one thing, okay? Keep it aside. Then you look up Transparency International's rating of most clean countries and most corrupt countries, okay? Take another list. You will see that the top richest countries, at least 7 or 6 out of them will be in the cleanest countries also, least corrupt countries also, which means that least corrupt, most ethical people also become rich. So even the path to richness, which I don't care so much about because these rich countries are doing a lot of damage, but whatever you want to do, whether to be rich or save nature, people who are true to themselves are the best ones to achieve it. So this is very interesting. We often want to be rich by any which way. And actually one person may for a short while, but the whole community never gets rich that way. And that's why highest GDP ratings, whether it is Luxembourg or Singapore or few in others in Europe, will also be the least corrupt countries in the world. And I think we should learn from such things and be true to ourselves. I am saying it more from that's when we can take best stewardship of our own communities, our own peoples, and the nature that we must all learn to worship. Yeah? So just a few things from our part of the world where we are struggling to get safeguards for our indigenous tribal culture, customs, right over land and forests. And there we want to connect it not just with culture and development but with nature also. And yeah, so it's a struggle. If you have been following We are trying to do it in the most peaceful way possible by inflicting pain on ourselves. There are two ways, and we have chosen this. Walking down to show to the other side their commitments and their responsibility, because we were promised these safeguards in the 6th schedule after the Ladakh Union Territory was formed. So to remind them of their commitment, we are taking the pains. And the effect of that, some people say this will not work, you have to be more assertive, some say more aggressive, but actually we saw it working because of the peaceful ways, our message has reached most of the country, far to the east and south and so on. Even within the membership of the ruling party, they started coming to meet us. Your cause is so just, we can't help but support you and know that half of our party is with you. So much so that those at the helm of the party are finding it difficult to keep their own people together with them. Understand? So there is power in peaceful ways also, and we want to experiment that part of Mahatma Gandhi. Thank you very much for sharing your